So let me just tell you a little bit about the study that we did. We were in 3 secondary schools, and one of these secondary schools was, two of the secondary schools were NAIS schools, National Association of Independent Schools, which are private schools in the United States, and the third school was an affluent suburban secondary school. Okay, so we were in these 3 schools. We kept 2 of the people working with me were at the time graduate students. One was Kristen Cipollone, the other was Heather Jenkins. Kristen was in the affluent suburban school with the top 10% of kids because it's a lot larger than the private schools. I was in one NAIS school with the top 20% of kids as noted by the counselor, and Heather was in 2 private schools, one of which overlapped with the one that I was in, and she was with the low-income, self-identified Black students who entered these schools on special intake programs. Our methodology was constant throughout. We actually worked with these kids and their parents and their counselors and their teachers for a year and a half in all 3 sites. So we were in there constantly as participant observers. We interviewed people, we interviewed the parents, we interviewed counselors, teachers, administrators, and so forth. So the design of the study kept all these things relatively constant. And people always ask us, actually, did we intend to write a book? Okay, the answer is no. We had absolutely no idea. I had no idea this was going to be a book. I had no idea we would be writing together. But what we ended up doing is when I was supervising their chapters, I realized that even though all 3 studies started at a different place, I realized that we were all talking about the production of social class, and actually a new social class, which I will argue is now in place for at least 100 years. And it's a very different kind of class structure than has been the case over the past in the United States. So that's where this started. The study was funded by Spencer. We did not go to Spencer and say we're studying the production of class. I didn't know that. What I did go to Spencer with was a question that involved the secondary to post-secondary transition process, and the fact that other than Pat McDonough, who did this work in the 1990s, this had not been studied since there was a real clear realignment of universities in the United States. So that's how this project started. A very, very interesting project. I have the book results, Class Warfare is what it's called, Class Race and College Admissions in Top-Tier Secondary Schools. And there's a lot of, it's received a fair amount of attention. People seem to find it very interesting. It's very theoretically deep, but also unbelievably ethnographically thick. So there's lots and lots of data allowing us to tell this story and to draw conclusions about the production of class at this particular moment in the United States. So I am going to, you have the context, okay, that's the critical bifocality, the 3 things we're talking about in terms of the economy and Americans losing jobs. Okay, a lot of jobs are not here any longer. So that's point number 1. We knew that. Point number 2 is the re-stratification of the post-secondary system in the United States. I did not know the extent to which that was happening. And thirdly, the extent to which going to particularly located post-secondary institutions leads to the next level. A lot of those data have come out recently, and they've come out at a time when, after these, we started collecting our own data. So that's the critical bifocality. We were bouncing our ethnographic data, our really deep sense of what these people were doing, what they were feeling, what was happening in those schools, with and against these huge alterations in structures in massively altered global context. So I'm going to leave that at that. Okay, all of those things are going on. That is really, really hard intellectual work. Okay, doing an ethnography is one thing. That's hard enough, like Michelle and I say. Doing a good descriptive ethnography is very difficult. Trying to bounce those data with and against these broader structural factors is something that you really gotta work at. You gotta keep thinking, you gotta keep reading, you gotta keep moving. Okay?